What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on player empowerment. Right, this era that was it was LeBron James and Kevin Durant era. Steph Curry played. Like that. And I want to point out a few things and talk on it because I just basically think it was a hoax and it was a setup, right? And I think it was used because, like, the NBA, if you think about it, the NBA probably it was getting a little bit of stale, right? We came off of the Michael Jordan era, and that was exciting. And then so fans were wanting to, they wanted the next Michael Jordan. And well, at least fans thought they wanted the next Michael Jordan, and that was going to, like, keep the excitement and keep the the interest of people in the NBA. But you had Kobe Bryant coming after Michael Jordan, and Kobe Bryant, he played just as hard as Michael Jordan. He was just as dedicated to the sport, and and it was, a lot of people liked Kobe, and a lot of people liked the way he played, and it generated a whole lot of interest and stuff like that. But it was getting stale. And so if you'd have had somebody else come to the league that was just like Kobe and just like Mike, it still would have been, it would have continued. I think basketball would have declined, right? Because people, it would have been the same old storyline. It would have been the same old storyline. Like when you had, if you follow the NBA, like from the 70s, which I did, like in the late 70s, the NBA had a reputation of having like a bunch of drunks and alcoholics and stuff like that. Now you did have some really good basketball players who played in that era, right? But they got rid of that era. Then they brought in Magic Johnson, and the storyline with Magic Johnson was the East Coast West Coast type thing. You had Magic Johnson with the flashy style, and Larry Bird, his style was opposed to, he was more of a half court type, and that was good. That generated a lot of interest. Then you had Mike coming in with that behind that. So now, fast forward to the LeBron James and Kevin Durant era. Now this is the player empowerment era, right? And so when you have Adam Silver coming in, and he was the perfect person to come up with, to go into this player empowerment era. This would not have worked with the guy, what's his name, Stern, David Stern, the commissioner. Like his name was David Stern. I think his name was David Stern. But nobody would have believed him, uh, being somebody who was for player empowerment. So they got this guy Silver in there who seemed like he was more like player friendly. And he went along. This thing was a setup, I'm telling you. So he came up with and he allowed this player empowerment movement, or at least for people to think, or the players to think that they had, more power, more say so in the league. When I just think it was all a setup, because I think that people don't miss, like, they don't miss sunny days until rainy days, right? And that's what the NBA, like the last 10 years, from, I'm thinking probably from about once Kobe left the league. I don't know what year Kobe left the league, but once Kobe left the league and up until now, I think that, it's the NBA has been on a decline. And people who watch Kobe and even go back as far as Mike and Magic, like, if you watching those, then you're like, you feel like you're being cheated, because the game is not played up to the level that it was played. Even in the 70s, you don't get the same type of effort that you got from even guys who played in the 70s and the 60s. Like, if you look at the, you know, guys today, load management, franchise ball players moving all over the place. Like, in this, throughout the history of basketball, it's never been like that. And that's why, even if you go back past Mike, and Bird and Magic and all those guys, like they can't identify with the style of basketball that's playing being played today. Like it's all different. And I believe that this was allowed to go on. So when they do come back and start, when the league do get back to playing the way that they used to play, then it'll be like a fresh start. It'll be like renewed interest and stuff like that. So if you look at like Shea Gilgris Alexander, and he is bringing back the mid-range game. Then Anthony Edwards been working on his game. Not Anthony. Is it? Yeah, Anthony Edwards been working on his game all off season, and he said that's what he's focusing on, this mid-range game. Then you got this kid Wembanyama, right? And he's going to, because he's going to dominate. They're going to have to bring back like the old. They're going to have to bring back like the power forward position, because you can't, because he's so tall, 7'5", you're going to have to be physical with him. You can't match him with finesse, and because it's just not going to work. You're just going to be trading baskets. So they're going to bring back that power forward position, and the game is going to, it's like a cycle. It's going to go back into the way it used to been played. Definitely not as physical as like it used to be in the 80s and in the early 90s. But I think the strategy part of the basketball game is going to come back. Like where, you're going to utilize more than just the 3-point shot and the dunk. There's going to be strategy to the game, more ball movement and stuff like that. And I think it's going to be more physical. And I think that's going to renew interest, and it's going to generate more interest from the fans and stuff like that. I think that LeBron James and Kevin Durant was allowed to move around from team to team the way they did, because the NBA, I think that those last few years, I just look at those as throwaway, and because the NBA really don't have any competition, they could afford to do that. They could afford to do that, have that type of business plan or that type of strategy, because they don't have any competition. Not, no teams in Europe can compete with them. Well, no teams nowhere can compete with the NBA, unless it's a whole nother sport like football, but it was all a setup and a hoax. The guy Adam Silver was the perfect, basketball commissioner to pull it off. Like I said, the guy Stern, because of like his personality and stuff like that, people wouldn't have bought it. They would have saw through it. And I think LeBron James and Kevin Durant, their careers really suffered because of that. We didn't really get to see, in my opinion, you didn't really get to see the best of and believe it or not, I don't believe that we got to see the best of Kevin Durant, you know, or the best of LeBron James. Can you imagine, like those guys, had they stayed in one city with one team and had to get better um than what they play? You know what I mean? Like LeBron James and Kevin Durant are both amazing players, but I think better, you know what I mean? In that type of environment, that type of play would have made those guys raise their game. It did it with everybody. Magic. I just watched the video where Michael Cooper said that the Celtics made them a better team because traditionally the Celtics, before the Lakers got Magic and all those guys and Michael Cooper and those guys, the Celtics had their way with everybody in the league. And if you wanted to beat the Celtics, you had to raise your level of play. And that's what the Celtics did for the league. You know what I mean? They made them raise their level of play. So now that you have guys coming back to the NBA and they're utilizing the mid-range game, teams are going to have to adjust to that. You got Victor Wembanyama. He's playing around the basket at 7'5". You're going to have to adjust to that. You're going to have to raise your level of play to be able to compete with those guys, or they just going to straight out flat dominate. and so the league is going to adjust, play is going to get better, and that phase that they allow, the player empowerment, I just thought that it was just, um, you know, I don't, I just think that it was all a hoax. First of all, if somebody's giving you power, you don't really have power because they can always take it away. And I would not have been fooled. Oh, I won't say that. If you young, you 20 years old, you coming into the NBA, and somebody telling you you have power, I guess you are going to believe it. Especially if they letting you do almost anything you want to do, right? You're going to believe it. But after a while, you got to catch on though, and realize that this is not what it seemed, what I thought it was going to be. So that's my take on it, man. Let me know what y'all think. Do y'all think that that whole player empowerment movement was a hoax, and the people who are going to look bad, like I don't even see like players up to date emulating or following in the footsteps of Kevin Durant and LeBron James, as because they see like how much ridicule they take for moving around from team to team. you know, how much ridicule LeBron James has taken for calling himself the GOAT. Like younger guys see this and they watching this and they're going to move differently, right? And so that's why I just think it was all a hoax because they were allowed to do the things that they did. I never believed, in player empowerments. So that's my take on it, though. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll check you all out in my next video. Peace.